everybody, thank you so much for joining me here today at Re-Written Vintage Homestead. I hope everyone is doing great today and that you have your safety glasses on as you're trying to watch the eclipse. My husband is out riding his roller. He's rolling the yard, and I just saw him go by going, and I don't think that's what you're supposed to do. So anyway, I'm so sorry I did not post a video last week. You guys, I have really been struggling for about 6 weeks. About 4 weeks ago, I went to the doctor and I was told I had a bacterial infection in my lungs. So I was given antibiotics for that and some cough pearls, I think they're called. I've tried Mucinex. I've put Vicks on my chest. I've tried essential oils. I've tried, standing on my head. I've tried a shot of whiskey. Nothing is helping with this infection. And so I went back to the doctor last Friday and got 5 days worth of prednisone, which is a steroid to help. The problem is when you have leukemia, blood disease, and I also have 17p deletion, which means that my cancer is aggressive. You really have a hard time fighting off infections. And what some people may get rid of in 3 or 4 days, it may take you forever to get rid of if it doesn't get worse. And so that's been the concern, is we don't want this to develop into pneumonia. So I've had a really hard time sleeping. I'm probably only getting about 4 hours of sleep a night. So in the daytime, I have to work still, but my butt is dragging, literally. So I go back to the doctor again this Friday. So hopefully things will get better. But I'm sorry I missed a video last week. I want you guys to know I'm really working hard to get better and back to my videos. I wanted to discuss today, how do you keep going? Homesteading is hard. It means cooking from scratch. It means working on a garden. It means trying to do as much as you can self-sufficiently, setting up your home and your property and that type of thing. It's a lot of physical work. And yes, I have the help of my husband, but I'm the one who's out in those gardens. And I spent about 3 hours the other day, even though I was sick, trying to clear out my strawberry patch for more dirt. And so what techniques do you guys use to keep going when you're not feeling good, or when you're feeling a little down about life? Like I told my dad, you need to keep on the sunny side of life. And how do you do that? Well, I think in my instance, what I can share with you is that I think you always have to have hope. Hope of something coming in the future. That may be something very small, like a dinner date in the future, a visit with a friend, a phone call, a party of some kind, a holiday. But hope that there is something coming that you want to keep going for. When I was young, sorry I'm squeaking, you guys. When I was young, I wanted to be a writer, and I wanted to be a country music singer. And boy, I worked on both of those a lot, really hard. But it's funny that once I reached a certain age, I continued to want to grow in the workplace. So I got my bachelor's degree. I was 52, I think, when I got my bachelor's degree. And I wanted to climb that corporate ladder and help my husband out more financially to take care of us. So that was a big priority then. But now I find, now that I'm 62 and I am still working full time, but since I got this homestead, my hope for the future is that I can actually make this little acre a productive, self-sufficient, money-earning farm. So that's what I'm working on. And I want to put out this year, I want to have a little stand out in the yard, you know, where I can sell my extra produce. I've expanded my garden. I've showed you guys already, I'm growing plants. I'm growing plants with the hope of selling some and then using some for myself. And that's what's keeping me going. Dirt. The love of dirt and the love of plants and the love of wallowing in the garden is what's keeping me going. And I'm so excited. This is my little wagon that my cousin James gave me that I am going to use for my little food stand in the front yard. So my husband will put a floor on that for me and build up some walls and a roof. And hopefully by the time the tomatoes are ripe this summer, we'll have our little food stand out front. Isn't that adorable? Look at those metal wheels. Something else I wanted to do was I'd like to have like a little cottage industry here with my stand outside. So I'm wanting to find a lot of quick breads, quick rolls, quick cookies, things like that, that I could sell alongside of my fruits and vegetables. So today I wanted to try a recipe that I found. It's an Amish oatmeal bread recipe. I've tasted it before. I've never made it, and it is delicious with peanut butter and jelly. But it would also be great with roast beef or ham. So I thought we'd give that a go today. First thing we're going to do is I have 2.5 cups of water on the stove that I'm heating to warm. Now for our recipe, I'm using my beloved Das Essinghaus recipe book that I tell you what, every recipe in here so far has been tried and true. And so they tell us to mix 2.5 cups hot water with 2 packages of yeast, but they don't tell you how hot to get your water. And you know, you have to be careful. You don't want to kill your yeast by having your water too hot, and it will not activate if you have your water too cool. So from previous experience with baking bread, I'm going to try to get my water between 125 and 135 degrees. Usually 130 is about the best. And so I have my thermometer. As soon as that reaches that temperature, we're going to add the yeast. I'm right at 130 on my water here. And that was 2.5 cups of warm water. And to that, I am going to add 2 packages of the Fleischmann's yeast. Make sure you check the dates on your yeast, everybody. Make sure they haven't expired. Oh boy, that smells good. It already smells like a loaf of bread and I haven't even done anything. So we're just going to dissolve that in there. I'm going to let that sit a minute. While that's doing that, I'm going to measure out my oatmeal, and I'm going to need 2 cups of oatmeal. I always have oatmeal on hand. I like it for breakfast, number one, but you can make so much out of oatmeal. Breads and cookies and pies and all kinds of things. So I think we have that dissolved nicely in there. So we're going to add 2 cups of our oatmeal. And I am going to measure out 1/4 of a cup of brown sugar. I am really excited about starting a series on sourdough bread, but also Mary Kay Butter's book, Wild Bread. They are basically the same thing. It's sourdough starter. But Mary Jane Butters has a different way of doing hers. She adds less ingredients and uses all kinds of different flours So I want to kind of comparatively do those. I need to get a good sourdough starter going. So I added 1/4 cup of brown sugar. And it smells like breakfast in here. Now I'm going to add some salt, just a tablespoon of salt. Have you guys noticed how in recipes now, we were taught in school that if you were doing a tablespoon, you used a capital T, and a teaspoon, you used a small t, and anymore on the internet, social media, they mix the two up. They don't do it correctly. It drives me nuts. Okay, so we added our salt. Now we need to get some shortening. Let me grab that. And due to supply chain issues, friends, apparently at my local store, they had trouble getting Crisco. So I had to get the generic. I hate that when I'm making something special. So I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of shortening. And we're just going to mix that in. That'll melt because that water is hot. So we'll get this stirred up and then we'll add the rest of the ingredients. We're going to add a little at a time, 5½ to 6 cups of flour. And we're going to do that until we have a stiff dough here. You can use any kind of flour you want, guys. If you have whole wheat, use that. I'm just using regular white. That's what I have on hand right now. And the reason I wanted to try this recipe is this is by Connie Bowers. She is the kitchen supervisor there at Das Essinghaus. And Connie says this is a no-fail recipe. It's never failed, and that's what I want. I want something I can whip up fast. You know, just to add a few bakery goods to my little stand out there. And maybe people will start looking forward to them. I live out in the country, so they would have to go all the way to town to get something similar. Yeah, it's starting to get stiff already, and I've only added like 2 cups. Now, you don't have to knead this. It doesn't say. We're just mixing it up. So this is 4 cups right here. I think it's time to use the hands to get it incorporated better. You guys know me. And my hands, I always have to get them in there. Make sure they're clean. Don't come in and do this right out of the garden. Still needs more flour because it's really sticky. And we want it stiff, not sticky. Now, there's something so satisfying about making bread. Any kind of bread, your quick breads even. It's just, you know, it's just like home, isn't it? So I'm going to add another cup of flour, so that would be 5 cups, a little at a time. I don't know why I kept calling Mary Jane Butters Mary Kay. I don't think she's selling makeup. But you guys, I've got Mucinex fog. Forgive me. I love Mary Jane Butters, though. I tell you, she's a very admirable woman. Yeah, now we're getting about where we want to be. Starting to get nice and stiff. I'm just going to go ahead and add the rest of this. So that is going to be a good 5 cups. So the family is starting to send me in information on the eclipse. I can already tell just looking out the window it's gotten darker as my husband's out there working. Okay, so there's also some other steps in here that I feel like have been left out. So I am going to knead this a bit. You know, that's what you have to be careful about sometimes in these church cookbooks. Is sometimes Aunt Martha, you know, her recipe is so darn good, she really doesn't want to share it. But she's been asked by so many people to share it that she does. But she'll leave out something, one key ingredient, so that it never tastes quite as good when you're making it than when she makes it. So always keep that in mind too. I think we're good here. We've got a nice big old fat loaf. I'm going to wash my hands and we'll go on to the next step. Nowhere in the recipe in the book does it tell you to do this, but my mama taught me this. This is the way I've always made bread, so I'm going to stick to it. And I'm going to grease a glass bowl here. Because if I would have just left my dough in the bowl like they told me to and let it rise, it would have been a sticky mess trying to get it out. So I'm going to put it in here and I'm going to twist it around a little bit and get all that grease on it. That'll help when it comes time to take it out. There we go. I've got my oven preheating to about 350. And I'm going to take a linen towel, put that over the top. Well, first I'm going to put plastic wrap. Let me grab that. Do you guys almost always kill yourself on the saran wrap like I do? I have such a hard time with the little scissors on this thing. I've about slit my wrist 20 times. Okay, so you just lightly put the saran on top, just lightly. You don't want to fold it or tuck it in. Then you're going to put your very fine cotton towel on top. And I'm going to put that on the stove. Like I said, I've got it preheating, so it's just nice and toasty. And we're going to let that rise until it's double in size. And so as not to let the heat in my oven go to waste, I am going to season a couple of my skillets here with vegetable oil to keep them nice and shiny and rust-free. You can use Crisco, you can use vegetable oil, you can use olive oil, any kind of oily substance that you want. Just wipe those down, and I'm just going to put them in my oven and let them bake until my bread has risen. So see, I'm killing two birds with one stone. Or let's say we're multitasking. We want to save the birds, don't we? All right. So our dough has risen. I let it set for about 2 hours. Nice and plump. And I am just going to do my best to divide that into two. Right down the middle. And see, it comes out so much easier if you grease that bowl. Just like that. I've got two greased bread pans right here ready to go. And I'm just forming loaves. Now you can also make these into dinner rolls if you want to. So for bread, I've got my oven preheating to 450. And I'm going to bake these for about 50 minutes. So I'm going to keep an eye on my clock and check them at 45 minutes, but about 50 minutes. But if you're making rolls, you're going to bake those 450 for 15 to 20 minutes. So here I have one. powder in here. And I think I'm going to cover these the same way we did last time and let them rise for about an hour. And then we're going to put them in the oven and bake them. And like I said, for bread, we're going to bake them at 450. Check them at 45 minutes. And I'll probably put some melted butter on the top before I take them out to get a nice pretty brown crust. But yep, I'm just going to let these plump up just a little bit before I put them in the oven. And then we'll see how they turned out. So you guys, this is good. This is not what I was looking for. It's more like a quick bread. Look how dense that is. But Mr. Re-Ritten thinks the taste is really good. He thinks I'm onto something as far as the taste. But it's just too dense and flat, and I was wanting, you know, an actual loaf of bread. But it is good. Very good. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep looking, try to find another recipe, something that'll rise higher, be more airy, like a loaf of bread. If you have a good recipe, let me know, but I'm going to keep looking. And that's what this is all about. We're just experimenting, trying to find the right things. So try it out. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, and share. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a great week.